So as we all know, the Obamacare decision came out. The Supreme Court said it was a tax, which is exactly the opposite of what the president has said all along, and most of the individuals that voted for it said. So I think the right thing to do is, because it was a tax, everybody that said it wasn't a tax, they need to repeal it. They need to go out and work actively to get rid of that tax. I mean, if you look at what's going on in this country, we are making it so difficult for Americans to survive, especially those that can't afford it to survive, with all these taxes. This is just another example, same as what's happened with tuition in our state. We just keep raising the cost of living, and we can't do it. We're making it very difficult for families in our state. We're making it very difficult for businesses in our state. As you know, in 2009, I organized a group to try to do the right thing for healthcare: choice, competition, reduce it, provide the tax break for an individual so they own their own insurance, so you don't have to deal with pre-existing condition as much. Reward people for taking care of themselves. This is going to be devastating to our economy, but probably more importantly, it's going to be devastating to patients. If you look at every government program in the world, they overpromise, they run out of money, they underpay providers, and then that rations care. On top of that, as bad as it's going to be for patients, it's going to be just as bad for taxpayers. We're not going to be able to afford this. There's this significant increase in taxes. And then finally, how are businesses going to pay for this? I went and visited a business the other day. I stopped, and an individual said to me, he said, "You know what, I'm going to have to shut down my business at the end of 2013. And he said, "Why?" I said, "Why?" He says, I can't afford, if I have to have that penalty, I don't make enough money to pay for that. So I will be out of business." And I think one thing that Supreme Court is not taking consideration, one thing Congress, everyone that voted for this, and the President, is the devastating impact it's going to have on businesses. And that's going to be a devastating impact on jobs in this country. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Governor, what does Florida have to do to comply with the act now, or are you going to advise that we do nothing until we see what happens in November?
I've got to read through the decision and make sure we understand it, so we'll make a decision.
Have you been briefed on the Medicaid part, where the state apparently can opt out of the expanded Medicaid?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I read it first. I've been sitting through clemency.
I have a clemency hearing on that note. A lot of the people today said they've been voting even though they haven't had their rights restored yet, and you kind of seem confused by that. How could that happen, and what are you going to do after knowing this?
Well, I'm going to ask more questions. It doesn't make sense to me how there must be a breakdown between the information that's provided to supervisor of elections, so I'm going to find out why it's continuing to happen. We've been hearing it since since I became governor and started in soft clemency.
Do you support the state expanding Medicaid as part of this program?
I'll look at that.
But philosophically, Governor, going forward, I mean, now that the Supreme Court has ruled, do you accept the court's judgment that this is now the law of the land?
I have to look at that, Steve. I have to look at it. I've been sitting up here all day. I have to read it. I want to take the time to read it.
Last question. Do you do anything to start implementing health exchanges, which is something the state is positioned to do but has not done yet?
I'll say it again.
Health exchanges.
What about them?
Yeah. What happens now?
I'll look at. I want to look at the whole. I want to look at what the decision was and how it applies to the state and what our options are. I'm just absolutely concerned for the citizens of our state. The cost, the ration of care, it's going to have a dramatic impact on jobs. I am very disappointed in what happened. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Governor.